Hello everyone and welcome to this Ultimate Chaos Showdown between all four of the Chaos Gods. In this free-for-all match, we're going to be using the Ultimate Chaos mod, which is a massive overhaul for the Chaos faction. It adds god-specific units, a bunch of new campaign interactions, and it is definitely quite a bit of fun. So in this match, I'm going to be commanding the forces of Nurgle, so you can see my entire army is Nurgle focused. I have a couple units here called the Nurgle's Afflicted, which are basically like these Nurgle zombies. Pretty horrible stats. They do have 6 melee attack, 4 melee defense, and 6 weapon strength here, so they're pretty pitiful on their own, but they have 9,000 HP, come with 150 models. Very thematic for Nurgle, pretty similar to like Poxwalkers in 40k, and they do have physical resist, which is quite cool. On top of that, I do also have some elite troops here, so you can see the Warriors of Nurgle, and something I gotta say is this, he did a really good job with the texturing of these models. If you look on the shields of the Nurgle troops, you can actually see the mark of Nurgle, just so much cool work done on these guys. On top of that, you can see the big bruisers here, the champions of Nurgle, and they got their big plague size going on here. And a couple other units I have up in the air, they do have a unique legendary lord, Aberghast the Despoiler. So he does poison and flame attacks, anti-large, armor piercing, and he does also have access to the lore of Nurgle. So that's something else that's really cool about this mod. Each of the different Chaos Gods, with the exception of Khorne, of course, has its own lore of magic. So Khorne has this aura, and let me go ahead and show you guys. I think I can. So every single unit, if there's like a powerful Khorne character, like a Bloodthirster or a Chaos Lord of Khorne, gets this aura. So it's called the Aura of Khorne, and it gives all casters a 25% miscast chance. So some really cool kind of thematic characteristics. So essentially, the Nurgle army is very like grindy and slow. They have physical resist. They're very, very tanky, but obviously they don't hit terribly hard, so they play that long game. If you look at the more elite Nurgle troops here, so I think I have some elite ones back here. The Plague Reapers, these guys are just absolute beasts. Just look at them. And I love the helmets and all that. They have the abilities like Cloud of Fly, so it gives negative 3 melee attack to all nearby troops. Somewhat similar to like the Demon Spew that we actually have in the vanilla game here. So I'm going to be commanding the forces of Nurgle, and I'm going to be joined by Dob Plays, who's going to be leading the forces of Khorne. He does have an Exalted Bloodthirster, which is kind of the elite version. There are two versions. There's the regular Bloodthirster and the Exalted, but this guy is a monster. 8,000 HP, 580 weapon strength, just insane abilities. He has Kill, Maim, Burn, which can give him a temporary buff that increases his weapon damage and charge bonus and melee attack by 50%. So, you know, very Khornish is that he has 28 melee defense. Relatively, I mean, I wouldn't say squishy. He's still hard to kill because he's so big and fast. But, man, he is really, really scary. He hits like a truck. So you got to avoid him at all costs. You can see for the rest of his army, he has some Warriors of Khorne right here who are, you know, also very aggressive on the combat stats with 56 melee attack, 48 weapon strength, frenzy, immune to psychology. And he has Skull Takers. And these guys, I don't think any of the infantry in the Ultimate Chaos mod can take these guys 1-1. Granted, they do get taken out pretty quick if they're like kind of swamped because they only have 32 melee defense. But a bonus for his infantry of 20, which is pretty cool. So this is going to be the forces of Khorne led by Dob Plays. And then we also have the forces of the Gobbo King over here. No, this is actually Johnson from Total Brohammer. So he's going to be playing the Slaanesh army. So he has Lancers of Slaanesh, which are like an anti-large spear unit. He does also have Prince Sigvald on his power unicorn here. Oh, that shield is actually, man, that is a cool effect. I don't know if the mod creator did that, but that looks real neat. So he has Ignore Pain, so he can regenerate. It's like a replenishment type ability. He got a ton of stuff. He has Enrapturing Spasms. So anyone that he wants to target with this is going to get their stats lowered and become unbreakable. He also, I think, has a Snare ability. I'm not sure, but he has the Perverse Aura and a few other things. So a lot of the stuff that's like in lore and in tabletop and all of that has been added to this mod. So it definitely makes, you know, Chaos kind of like is its own standalone game. You can bring Chaos Undivided with demons. You can be playing with like, you know, just a Nurgle army, a Khorne only army, etc., and bolster with cultists. And you can see that he also added some like regular cultist units. So Chaos has access to these Chaos cultists with halberds, which is pretty neat. He has Slaanesh chariots over here, some Knights of Slaanesh, Forsaken. I don't know if he brought the elite Slaanesh troops, the blessed ones, I think is what they're called, or Slaanesh is blessed, but I don't think he did. And last but not least, the mighty Gobbo King. So Gobbo King is going to be using the armies of Tzeentch, and Tzeentch is insanely powerful in this mod. He has all kinds of wild magic, so you can see he has a Sorcerer Lord of Tzeentch up here. He has the Bolts of Change, the Pink Fire of Tzeentch. He has the Dark Fire of Chaos, which is the Dragon Breath, the Boon of Tzeentch. So they just get a ton of winds of magic and are very, very powerful. He's got some pink cores down here, just little flamethrower units. He also has some regular Chaos Spawn, a Champion of Tzeentch right there. And these are probably, like, just if you take a look at them from a standalone perspective, these are the best infantry units in the whole mod. These are the Bringers of Change. These guys have 60 melee defense, you know, not the best offensive stats, but 48 weapon strength. They have a base ward save of 25% against all damage types, 50% magic resist. They really just play to that long grindy style that allows you to use your magic. So definitely some cool stuff. So without further ado, guys, let's get this show on the road. And I'll be doing a little fast forwarding because there is a lot of posturing. We are on the Steppes of Isha, which is the new free-for-all map. And it's definitely fun. I like the street fighting element. So basically, thematics, let's just throw something out there. The end times are over. High Elves lost. Chaos is just kind of, you know, pissed off as they always are, and they're just going to go fisticuffs in the streets. So Aberghast the Despoiler is just going to be flying around, not wanting to mess with this Exalted Bloodthirster, but I do have some pretty good answers in these guys right here. So these are, what are they called again? The champions of Nurgle. They're anti-large, and they also do have poison attacks. They have regeneration and some good auras. So hopefully I'll be able to use them to kind of pin down these Exalted Bloodthirsters of Khorne. Also, my Nurgle Sorcerer has an ability called Rot Glorious Rot. So it's a massive AoE damage bomb. It costs 25 wins of magic, and it just wrecks shop. So if we blob up on like this street and end up fighting here, you guys will see it does a ton of damage. Down here he has the Fleshhounds of Khorne. So these guys are anti-infantry, very, very powerful. I think their weapons rank, their melee attack's 42. So I get a nice little breath attack right there on the Skull Takers of Khorne. So one of the downsides of the Khorne units is a lot of their elite units do have Rampage. So I actually get one breath attack, take out half their HP because they're perfectly lined up right there. And they're going to just Rampage probably and charge in, which is also very, thematic of Khorne. But he got his Bloodthirster, was able to get a few, free kills and laid a little bit of a smacking on my champion of Khorne. So he's probably going to come back in right here. Well, we'll see. And man, this guy is so terrifying. So the Khorne warriors are just going to be meeting him head on. And this is not a fight that anyone wants to take. So you can see my champions are being sent flying. And I'm telling you, I tried to land against this guy a couple times, and I just immediately regretted it. So he's just cleaving skulls for the Skull God already. I do have my champions fighting him, so they can't hold him in place, but it's not going to be an easy fight. On the far side here, you can see my Nurgles Afflicted, which are my Nurgle zombies, are just getting feasted on by the Fleshhounds of Khorne. So I do land Abergast the Despoiler, but as soon as I land it, Dob plays just this big Khorne monster. You can see the Exalted Bloodthirster with its, well, it's poison right now, but when it gets charging, it accelerates so hard. So it just charges me, and I'm able to get up. I think it gets like one attack and does some okay damage, but I do escape and get up in the air here in a second. So the main fight is underway. You can see that the forces of Nurgle and Khorne have collided in these streets here. So he has his cultists in the front. They're actually called the Followers of Slaughter, so they're Khorne-specific cultists. He has his Skull Takers and a bunch of other troops here, but this is going to be a grind fest. He does have better offensive stats, but all of the Nurgle troops have a base physical resist of 15%, I think, so they're going to be durable. So what I do is I fly my Abergast the Despoiler, and I use Rot Glorious Rot. So you can see this big AoE damage spell going down on these guys, and it's just going to turn them to just pus and goo and just do a ton of damage right here. So you can see he took a big burst on all of those guys. His cultist here taking a little bit of work, and Abergast gets his Pestilent Breath and just roasts a lot of those elite troops there in the middle. And in the meantime, the Bloodthirster of Khorne is just kind of fighting my two champions right here, bashing them about, but they have regeneration and should be able to put up a fight. So, on the other side of the battlefield, the forces of the Gobbo King and John Tonn, so Slaanesh and Tzeentch have met here in the streets. You can see the Bringers of Change have a pretty good little engagement here, fighting against, what are they actually fighting against? I think it looks like John Tonn sending in some cultists. There's some Chaos Spawn here, just all kinds of shenanigans. And it looks like the mobile forces of Slaanesh here are kind of like dual postured. So he has some facing here, because Dob does have some forces here. So looks like he's not fully committing to engaging against Gobbo King, except he's, it looks like the Lancers are finally charging from the street. So the Chariots of Slaanesh running in there, and you can see some of these Bringers of Change being sent flying. But honestly, the Bringers of Change are just going to be like a meat grinder here on this street. I mean, they have the anti-large and that physical ward save, and Warriors of Slaanesh have some decent stats. They have the Rapturous Pleasure, so 12% weapon damage and leadership and some other stats, and of course the Aura of Khorne. But it's going to be a tough one for the forces of Slaanesh. And you can see Gobbo King does have his Lord, the Sorcerer Lord here, who's going to be using probably some foul magic. And Sigvald, though, Sigvald is incredibly powerful in this mod. I mean, he is just a monster in terms of stats, very hard to kill, and he also heals, so he's going to be able to last. And you can see those bolts of change going down from the Sorcerer, and it looks like there's going to be another Slaanesh spell just going and roasting a lot of these guys, so just wild times. So in the streets, there is a fight going on. You can see the Riders of Slaanesh. These knights are going to be charging into these cultists, the Followers of Slaughter. These guys are pretty cool. Khorne cultists here. They have good offensive stats, but like anything Khorne-based in this mod, they have very, very poor melee defense, which I think is a kind of a good design choice. The cultists are also going to be charging in to assist here, but I think the Knights of Slaanesh should be able to kind of ride them through, as there's not too much elite action going on. Back over here on this front, you can see the battle continues to grind on. It looks like Dov did summon some Bloodletters of Khorne, so he has a Cult Grandmaster who's able to summon the Bloodletters. It's definitely pretty powerful units. And the way demons work in this mod is they're pretty much the same as undead. They have these very powerful ward saves. So all demons, just like in tabletop, have an innate ward save that you have to pass, 20% in this case. And they also degenerate. So they have their leadership, and they kind of deteriorate like vampire count units. So they're definitely pretty spooky. And they have 42 kills, actually. It's not bad. In the meantime, his Exalted Bloodthirster is kind of grinding through a lot of my low-tier troops. I have my Chosen Swordmaster, so these are kind of an undivided type unit. Wanted to mix one in, but man, they just get trounced on by that Exalted Bloodthirster, who's also getting the Demonic Invigoration, which I think is a spell that's available to one of the casters, or I think just the cultist guy. But I still have my two champions of Nurgle just kind of chasing him and whittling him down. So Dav has been doing a pretty good job healing, and he just sends my champion flying. My champion of Nurgle, and I was like, man, I wish I'd brought a great unclean one so I could go fisticuffs here. But Abergast is doing his thing. He's flying around using some foul Nurgle magic, but it's looking pretty good for the forces of Nurgle. I have a big blob of troops right here. You can see they're in pretty good health, and the forces of Khorne are getting pushed back a little bit. And if you guys are wondering why the Khorne troops are in green, it's because Dav had to send me the replay. Unfortunately, I had some issues with mine. So the Nurgle troops here are just kind of fighting in the pits with the Skull Takers, who actually are getting a decent amount of kills, but it's just kind of this inexorable advance. I've also been using Plague Magic and Blades of Putrefaction and a few other things up in the air to really just give my troops the edge in this engagement. But ultimately it came down to the Rot Glorious Rot, as well as the Breath Attacks from my Lord here. So you can see the champions of Nurgle are able to fend off the Bloodthirster, so it's going to have to retreat. It doesn't want to be in this kind of a grindy environment here, and also I have the Plague Bearers of Nurgle, so these are one of the demons available, kind of just like these greenish trolls, but they're pretty cool. They apply poison, they have a perfect vigor, they also have a Cloud of Flyzor, so they're going to be marching forward and hopefully helping me to kind of clinch this battle right here. But I just can't land. His Bloodthirster, wherever that thing is, it just has like a fat Chaos Chub, and it's just going to town on my guys here, and you can see it just pounding my Nurgle warriors, sending them flying, and it's just out of control here. So as far as the overall points, I'm currently in first with 10.5, 9.5 for Dav. And it looks like Gobbo King and Jonton, much like a very, very slow fight over here compared to, you know, the pace of Dav and I. There are some chariots coming in. You can see the Warriors of Slaanesh are teamed up with some of these. What are these guys? Chaos Warriors with halberds. They're just regular ones. But the Bringers of Change and the Warriors of Tzeentch kind of stacked on top of some of these Chaos Spawn. I think they're eventually just going to force their way through. I don't think there's really a chance for the Slaanesh troops here. Those Bringers of Change are just linebackers. Plus, Gobbo King is kind of sitting overhead with his caster and using the fire abilities just to perpetually roast these guys. And you can see the Warriors of Slaanesh are all very, very tattered here, with the exception of those Forsaken. But also, Jonton was kind of fighting on two fronts, so he has his Demonettes back here, whereas Gobbo, I think, had most of his forces committed. But the Demonettes of Slaanesh are very good. 64 weapon strength, 48 melee attack, a very, very powerful unit. They also have an aura, so if they're in that pit fight, they're going to be lowering the speed. And yeah, just a solid demon unit. So the fight's still going on over here. It's raging. You can see that my Exalted Bloodthirster, or his Exalted Bloodthirster, is actually chasing me. So I tried to get on his Cult Grandmaster, who's kind of riding around on a horse and healing the big demon. And I was like, I need to get him. And Abergast is a good duelist. He has, you know, poison attacks and anti-large. So if you're fighting anything big, he's not bad. But that Bloodthirster can literally like 3 or 4 shot you if you're not careful with your heroes and stuff. So right now I get a pretty good little surround. You can see the forces of Nurgle are just swarming this Exalted Bloodthirster, getting punted a little bit, but also giving it back. And you can see he's starting to reach his healing cap. And as far as like troops left for the forces of Khorne, there's some aspiring champions, and I think there's some Warriors of Khorne here, but yeah, it looks like Nurgle is just going to be pushing them back. Just an inexorable tide of cultists, and Nurgle's afflicted, just these zombies just absorbing so much of the damage, and also those AoE attacks, and you can see it's just going to be a full surround at this point. So it looks like the forces of Khorne have decided to take their battles elsewhere, and you know, he really didn't like lose as much as you think, because the Exalted Bloodthirster is literally like a third of his army. So like I invested in, you know, more cheap stuff and just kind of swarming tactics. So he did a ton of damage to me, just kind of objectively speaking. Over here you can see the Exalted Bloodthirster is going to be going up here, and Prince Sigvald might be on the hunt. I don't know, he's riding around. He's pretty fast on his unicorn. You can see Sigvald just running from the Bloodthirster. Oh man, what a sight this is. This is ridiculous. Oh, and he's putting the moves on him. But the Bloodthirster is so fast. Look at it, just sprinting after him, and Sigvald does not want any of that. Thankfully for Jonton, Sigvald does have some healing abilities. And you can see the Demonettes of Slaanesh and some of these Forsaken are going to be chasing him. And it looks like Sigvald does decide to engage once his Demonettes get there, and they might be able to bring this guy down. So 4.5 KHP, takes about 100 damage there in an immediate burst. The Demonic Invigoration is going down, but Sigvald has some abilities, like some poison abilities and some other combat abilities that can be very, very strong here. So the forces of Nurgle are just going to be kind of marching up the streets. They were able to clean up the Khorne Warriors and some of the Skull Takers. You can see the last of the aspiring champions are routing off. There is a bit of a rally up here from some of the Khorne troops. You have the Followers of Slaughter and some cultists coming back to the fight. But for the most part, you know, I have a really, really big infantry force. My champions are in perfect health, but Abergast, now this is something on this battlefield has an ability. So there's the Ore of Khorne, but there was something that happens later in the battle that makes my miscast chance go up to like 500%. So I think there's some sort of witchcraft going on from Khorne. Well, Khorne wouldn't be doing witchcraft, but something happens that, like, I start nuking my own lord. I don't know what it was. I'll have to look later. The Knights of Slaanesh are going to be riding down here, getting a decent little engagement, but the cultists are the polearm variant, who actually have really good armor-piercing values, like for their 13 overall weapon strength, but they're definitely, you know, well-suited there. Knights of Slaanesh are just hunting down the Exalted Bloodthirster, and I'm going to be sending my champion of Khorne. He looks pretty fast, or my champion of Nurgle. He looks pretty darn fast. Yeah, he's a track star, all right. So the fights up here, it looks like the Bringers of Change and the forces of Tzeentch have pushed up the street. They do have their Chaos Bond kind of pushing forward, and it looks like there are going to be some cultists pushing in to try and intercept them. But for the most part, the forces of Tzeentch should be able to push through the streets, no problem here. So just battles all over the place. It's pretty much anyone's game at this point. I'm currently at 12.4. Dob plays in Khorne at 11.8, but the Gobbo King is rapidly catching up, and he has a really durable pocket of troops left. He did not take much damage in his engagement versus Slaanesh here, because again, Jonathan was kind of fighting on two fronts, so he didn't get the chance to really kind of fully commit, whereas he was fighting some of Dob's harass units down there in the streets. So there is a fight here. You can see the champion of Nurgle is going to be leading some of the boys up here, and he's got his big Reaper Scythe, and man, that thing is incredibly cool looking. And I think that aura you guys are seeing is the Cloud of Flies, so they're able to just cleave these cultists asunder and send them running from the battlefield, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it looks like they're all broken, all these just haggard cultists. And I do have my Chosen Swordmasters. These guys are definitely some of the better units in the mod as well. They have really good armor piercing, a bonus versus infantry of 10, 58 melee defense, definitely a very solid unit there. In the meantime, though, Abergast the Despoiler, my Nurgle Lord, is flying overhead just looking for an opportunity, but honestly, neither Gobbo or I can really land when that Bloodthirster is alive, because it will just monster mash us. So we have kind of a final cataclysmic fight going on. You can see the forces of Nurgle are pushing forward. And why is one of those? Is there like a leader? I think there's like a leader in that Plague Bearer pack. That's actually really cool that there's like one, just kind of alpha one, like a captain. So they have engaged with the Bringers of Change, and you can see I'm going to be getting a Plague Breath going down the formation here. So this will be a pretty grindy battle. Both of our forces are very tanky, but the main issue being is that all the Tzeentch troops do magic damage, so they circumvent all of my physical resist. You can see the Nurgles Afflicted are going to be pushing into these Bringers of Change as well. So hopefully I can at least muck them up for a period of time. And our leadership's not bad considering this point in the battle here. So over here, the Sorcerer Lord of Tzeentch it looks like they're fighting with Prince Sigvald. Sigvald does have he doesn't have too much health left. He's kind of on his own, but man, he is so hard to kill in this mod. And we still have this Bloodthirster who has about 4,000 HP, and man, he is hunting down this Slaanesh Sorceress. So man, she's going to get just taken to business. Her skull. Oh man, look at that. That's 2 hits here. Let's see if she can get 3-shotted. It'll be close. Oh, it looks like he missed that one, so the melee attack didn't get through, but man, this Exalted Bloodthirster is actually out of control. So he has Kill, Maim, Burn, 768 weapon strength, and you can see he's just massacring everything he comes in contact with. Definitely very thematic of Khorne and all that, but it's just a grindy fight right now. So if you see here in the streets, forces of Khorne are just going at it. I'm just pouring in all the troops I have. Chosen Swordmasters are going over here to get these pink cores, so I really need to kind of just get these little weasels off the battlefield. If you leave them alone, they do a surprising amount of damage, 178 missile damage, so we need to get them. So these Exalted Swordmasters, oh, did he just like back punch that guy? So yeah, anyways, I'm chasing these guys down. You can see the Gobbo King, very well played here, is going to intercept me with these Bringers of Change. The Chosen Swordmasters should make pretty quick work of these guys. Not quick work, but they will win in a long engagement. And I'm also sending over my Champions of Nurgle to potentially take those guys out. So Dob plays actually takes first place. So his great, not his great and clean one, but his Exalted Bloodthirster's just been doing a ton of damage, just like cleaving into the troops, and this is going to be just a point smorgasbord for him. So he's going to be fighting right here, just getting a great engagement to all these Nurgle troops. Definitely doing very, very good work. In the meantime, a very pitched fight going on over here between the Bringers of Change and my Chosen Swordmasters, but it looks like it's just a bit of a slogfest. And those Bringers of Change, I really thought those Chosen Swordmasters would take them out quite a bit faster, but man, they are durable with that 66 melee defense. So let's go ahead and take an overarching look at the battlefield. You can see the Exalted Bloodthirster of Khorne just rampaging across the battlefield. Oh, it looks like he's not out of control anymore, so at least Dob does have control. But 117 kills, he's at 4,200 HP, so despite being at half health, he's still going to be a terror in the night to bring down. The one thing about him is he is a leadership-based unit, so all of the demons are, like I mentioned before. So if we are able to get his leadership down, he might crumble, but it's still very tough to say. Looks like over here, the Sorcerer Lord of Tzeentch for the Gobbo King is going to be landing and maybe going fisticuffs with my Champion of Nurgle, which is very risky. The Champion of Nurgle does hit quite hard, has anti-large, also has poison, so he definitely has some pretty good tools against the Sorcerer Lord of Tzeentch. And you can see the pink horrors here. These are definitely such a funny unit, just using the Branch Wraith model as, look at him just like spitting fire. They're going to be roasting some of my Nurgles Afflicted, which is actually really cost effective because the Nurgles Afflicted are like a regenerating unit, I think, or they're at least weak to fire. Yeah, they do regenerate. So, but yeah, they're gonna be getting mowed down. You can see it's going into the back of my Plague Bearers, who are actually not weak to fire, surprisingly. So they're holding it down to the front line. But the Bringers have changed. Do they have anti-large? I'm not sure if they do. They do have anti-large, so they're definitely a very good tool against my my elite demons. Oh, and my Lord gets blasted out of the air. So I think there was a bolt of change that came from the Sorcerer Lord. So you can see my Abergast the Despoiler just falling, and oh, that must be where he splattered in the ground, but he has fallen. So as far as the Lords go, Slaanesh, the Slaanesh Lord's still running around. Is he still alive? I think Sigvald's still alive, so he's been kind of hunting and trying to cycle charge the Exalted Bloodthirster of Khorne, And it looks like he did use the Enrapturing Spasms on the Exalted Bloodthirster, which is a really cool ability for Slaanesh. So it gives negative 50 melee defense and negative 50 melee attack, but it kind of makes them unbreakable as well. So it has like some, dual-pronged purpose. You could use it to keep something on the battlefield or make them much weaker. So you can see his melee defense right now must be like 14. And man, he has taken a ton of damage. It looks like Prince Sigvald is just dueling him, and some of my Plague Bearers of Nurgle are here helping, just getting pounded by this huge Greater Demon. And right now, yeah, Slaanesh might be able to pull this out. Man, this is such a close fight. And it looks like the Bloodthirster of Khorne is out of control as well. So he is rampaging again. He's at his healing cap. There's no more healing. There goes that Plague Bear again. He just gets like punted and then just beaten down by these Bringers of Change here, which is pretty hilarious. So over here, the Gobbo King's Sorcerer Lord is kind of on the hunt, just chasing down some cultists. Looks like Jonton does have some Forsaken coming back and some Chaos Warriors with halberds, but the Gobbo King's Sorcerer Lord of Tzeentch should be able to finish those guys off, no problem. Over here, the Chosen Swordmasters of mine are actually able to kill those Bringers of Change. So the Bringers of Change only have a couple models left, if I'm not mistaken. So they were definitely a pretty solid pick. I probably should have brought some more Chaos and Divided stuff, but I think the Nurgle units are definitely more fun. So they're able to finish those guys off. It looks like the Champion of Tzeentch. So as far as what Gobbo has left, he has his Sorcerer Lord. He has his Champion right here, but man, this is just madness. It's just a complete slogfest. And it looks like the Bolts of Change going down and just blasting into this Exalted Bloodthirster right here. You can also see that Prince Sigvald is still dueling him. A very fast unit, but man, he just pounces on him here. 700 HP right here. He's getting roasted by the pink fires here, putting his leadership down to 0. I wonder if there's like a burn mechanic on those guys that like tanks leadership. I don't think so, but yeah, his leadership's negative 25, so he's now crumbling because he is a demon, and I think it looks like Prince Sigvald is able to slay the Bloodthirster of Khorne. He's going to ride off cackling into the distance. Definitely very pleased with himself. So if we look here, I do have these Champions of Nurgle still fighting. That's pretty much all I have left. I have some Plague Reapers of Nurgle who are an extremely tanky kind of anti-large poison unit. So we're fighting in here, and we are winning this engagement versus the Bringers of Change. Just that slogfest, but it's going to be hard because there's still the Sorcerer Lord of Tzeentch in good health, and I'm susceptible to take a ton of magic damage from him. Prince Sigvald is running around on his My Little Pony over there, so there's still so many threats on the battlefield, and I'm getting perpetually roasted by those pink horrors, who, even though they only have 10 models, they only start with 30, so they're still relatively combat effective here, and you can see my troops are just getting worn down. So Sigvald rides in there, and it looks like he's going to be running one of those over, and also my Champion of Nurgle is going to be bro-charging here. Why does it look like he's running so fast? I guess he only has 35 speed, but man, he's going to cleave those guys most likely, and the Plague Bearers are pushing forward. Just this Pestilent Horde is going to be doing their best to finish off the range units that have just been melting them for like the majority of this battle. So we'll go ahead and fast forward a little bit here as things just kind of fight, and you can see that Slaanesh, I keep calling him Slaanesh, but Prince Sigvald, I guess it's like the scion of Slaanesh, right? He's chasing down this Champion of Tzeentch. He does use the Enrapturing Spasms to lower his melee defense, and he is getting a ton of work on that guy. The issue being, though, Gobbo King still has a Sorcerer Lord up here who's very powerful in melee. I mean, still 380 weapon damage, 52 melee attack. So if he were to land and maybe get some good cycle charging on Sigvald, he might be able to pull it out. So knowing I can't catch any of these guys, I just decided to kind of come in here with my Champions of Nurgle. I'm just going to fight and see if I can protect my Plague Bearers, but unfortunately they are starting to crumble as their leadership is giving out. And I feel like these guys might have the Gorbel syndrome, where like when they get hit, they just go flying, I don't know, maybe some sort of fighting business like that. The Champion of Tzeentch is going to come in and be bolstering his troops. He's giving some auras. He also has those bolt attacks, so he could potentially snipe out my Champions of Nurgle. And you can see that Sigvald going for the kill on this Sorcerer Lord, but he does get back up in the air, and it looks like my Champion of Nurgle inadvertently kind of protects Sigvald and buys him time. But I'm getting some really good anti-large armor pierce. Well, I guess they have decent AP, but anti-large attacks on this Champion, but he's definitely much faster, so I won't be able to catch him. Gobbo King, in the meantime, is going to be taking this fight over here. So Sigvald, in his last stand here, is going to be fighting the Sorcerer Lord. And I wonder if Sigvald's weak to fire. He might actually be, since he regenerates in this mod. I'm not sure, but the Champion of Tzeentch coming in. Sigvald's completely surrounded. He only has -5 leadership, and he's just getting pounded by the dragon. You can see the Bringers of Change coming in. So at this point, all that's really left, Jobplay's forces have fully crumbled when he lost the Bloodthirster. But it's basically my 2 Champions of Nurgle facing off against Gobbo's Lord. It looks like the Tzeentch fire is coming down, which is so cool looking. It's like taken from the Grand Soulfire bombardment there. But, I mean, man, this game is up in the air. Gobbo King's in first place pretty substantially, but if I'm able to be the last man standing, there could be a chance. And you can see that the Champions of Tzeentch are wavering. His Lord is very low. I still have a full health Champion of Nurgle and another one here who's probably about to break, but I do have that anti-large. If I'm able to get 1 or 2 attacks on that guy, maybe I can pull it out. Just an absolute slogfest here, but you can see some Tzeentch magic coming in and just blasting one of my Champions of Nurgle, who is going to be running, and Gobbo King should be able to easily chase that guy down right now. He does come in there with another cycle charge. He's able to get some work, but I do have some auras, lowering melee attack, and some other stats nearby, and I do get a really good attack on his Lord there, putting him down to 800, down to 500, just so incredibly close. But I think one more cycle charge is probably going to break my characters, and I think Sigvald is gone. I think all the forces of Slaanesh are gone. And and that's going to be all she wrote. So what an incredibly close game. Gobbo King's able to pull it out with the forces of Tzeentch, but man, that is just such a fun mod. So for any of you guys who are looking for the mod, there will be a link in the comment section below. The creator of the mod is a really cool guy. He puts in a ton of work on the texturing and the details. And if you want to like you can do some really cool thematic stuff. You can do like end times. You can do chaos demon armies that have no regular chaos. You can use bloodletters, demonettes, plague bearers. They have all kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, you can see the armies. They also have some cool tooltips here. So this is Dov's army. He had his bloodthirster here. This is mine. So you can see Aberghast the Despoiler and his champions of Nurgle and the not Skull Takers, but Plague Reapers. All kinds of madness going on. So yeah, big thanks to Dob Plays, Johnson, and Gobbo King for the game. Definitely quite a bit of fun. And we're going to be doing a couple 1v1 battles in the next few weeks with this mod. Probably having like Nurgle face-offing and Tzeentch and things like that. I think that'd be pretty fun. So thanks again for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed, and we will see you guys next time. Take care.